بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم لا علم إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت الحكيم العليم. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. وصلى الله على سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم خير العرب والعجم والأنام، وعلى آله وصحابته ومن تبعهم بإحسان. والحمد لله. I want to say first off that the topic is daunting, to say the least. I certainly don't claim in any way to have all of the answers. It's something that I've certainly given a lot of thought. And I was thinking on the way on the airplane, actually, that I really, in a sense, don't have anything to add to this discourse that's original, because this condition that we find ourselves in, which is, in a sense, exacerbated in the present times for a number of reasons, is nonetheless a condition that this ummah has been in for quite some time. And some far more scholarly and more intelligent people than myself or others have looked at it and considered it quite deeply, written several books, and many, many talks given, many lectures, and yet the process goes on and continues. And as I was thinking that, the ayah in the Quran came to me. I looked out the window, actually. وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Remind people, because the reminder benefits the people of Iman. And so, in a sense, we have nothing to offer anymore in terms of the discourse, the people speaking in this age, other than reminders, in the hopes that ourselves and that others will begin to heed the reminders. And this is the purpose of dhikr, that we remember. If you look at the title, about understanding the past, looking at the present condition, and attempting to look at some possible ways of change for the future. The first thing that I'd like to point out is that I want to use a medical model. It's useful, I think it's Quranic, because the Quran says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, قَدْ جَاءَتْكُمْ مَوْعِظَةٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. This Quran has come down as a mu'idah, an exhortation, and Allah says that it is a rahmah, it's a mercy, and it's a shifa, it's a healing. It's a shifa lima fi sudur, for what's in the breast of diseases and illnesses. And so the language of medicine is the language of the Quran and the prophets. Now when you look at a disease or an illness, there are certain things that you have to examine first. You have to look at the nature of the illness. What is its characteristics? And illnesses have many, many different aspects. One of them is in medical tradition, you look at what are called signs and symptoms. Now a sign, generally, there's probably people in here that are studying medicine, or maybe doctors or nurses or people in that medical profession. But a sign is something that is objective, that the one observing can see it. And a good physician is the one who learns to literally see signs that lesser physicians don't see. In other words, they see things that the average person doesn't see. So a sign is an objective outward manifestation. Or it could be an inward now, because we use very sophisticated ways of measuring blood and cells and these types of things. Then there's also what's called a symptom. And a symptom is something that is articulated by the patient. The patient tells the physician what's wrong. I have a pain here. Well, what kind of pain? It's a sharp pain, because I can't tell that. If I'm taking a case history, I can't tell that. that it's a sharp pain. That has to be told to me, and that's a symptom. The sign is that there's swelling, that it's red. Those are signs we can see outwardly. So we have to know the nature, its signs and its symptoms. And then we have to know the cause. What is the cause of the problem? The illness itself has a cause. And this is called etiology, trying to understand where does this disease come from. Now when you look etiologically at an illness, you have different aspects of it. You have what they call causa profundus, a very deep, profound cause. You have causa occasionalis, an occasional cause. For instance, somebody could have asthma, but it's a stress that suddenly brings it on. You see, that's not the cause of the disease. That's simply an occasional cause. It's something that emerges and actually wakes up a sleeping illness, right? And this is something that stress does. So you have superficial causes and you have deep causes. Now, if you look in the world, the vast majority of what we read in newspapers, what we read in magazines are very superficial causes. If they're causes at all, they generally tend to be signs and symptoms. And this culture is brilliant at articulating signs and symptoms, and yet they have not a clue as to the cause, the underlying diseases that are affecting humanity, that are afflicting humanity in any time and place. They have no understanding whatsoever because they know the outward of this world. يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. They know the outward of this world. They can elicit the signs. But they do not know the inward. They don't know the cause. And the greatest cause of all things is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they're the furthest from knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ultimately the only cause. That everything else, in fact, is means. So we have to look at the cause. And it has superficial aspects, but we have to look also deeply at it. And then we have to understand the prognosis, which is, what does this mean generally? Because the Quran is filled with prognosis. How does it tell us the prognosis? By looking at the ancients. By showing us the same signs and symptoms, telling us what the cause was, and then saying, if you get the same disease that they had, then you have the same prognosis that they had. And this is again and again in the Quranic narrative. It comes again and again. We see the same afflictions. They don't come with anything new. I guarantee you, read the Quran, look at the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed. They come with nothing new. The same old game. The people playing today are the same players. They change the names, but they're the same players. We have our archetypes, and I'm going to talk, inshallah, about the archetype of Qarun because he's a fascinating Quranic archetype. Allah doesn't tell us about these people to tell us about some story that happened in the past. When Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu was reminding Muawiyah radiallahu anhu about the people that were hoarding gold, and he quoted the ayah, الَّذِينَ يَكْنِزُونَ الذَّهَبَ وَالْفِضَّةَ, those who are hoarding gold and silver. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu said, نَزَلَتْ فِي أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ يَا أَبَا ذَرَّ. That ayah was revealed in the people of the book. He said, نَزَلَتْ فِيهِمْ عِبْرَةً لَنَا. It was revealed about them as a way of taking a lesson. وَالسَّعِيدُ مِنَ التَّعَظَ بِغَيْرِهِ. The felicitous one is the one who takes heed from the afflictions of others so that he doesn't fall into the same afflictions. So we have to look at how then do we prognosticate, how then do we predict, according to the Quranic grid, where we are headed if we don't change our ways. And this is very important. Now, not only a prognosis, there are two types of prognosis. There's a prognosis if you don't take a cure. Here's what generally will happen. This is what the doctor says. But there's another prognosis, and that is if you take the cure. Now, the difference between their medicine and the Quranic medicine ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. This is a book, there's no doubt. In their medicine, it's conjecture. 95 out of the statistical studies that we've taken, 95% of the people that do this treatment get better. Well, what if you're in that 5%? You're not in 5%. It's 100% for you that you didn't get better. Right? So their science is not exact. It's based on conjecture. It's based on a type of kahana, what the Quran calls kahana, really. And also on hukm al-ada, which is making a judgment based on repetitive events and occurrences. Now, to look at understanding the past, where do we go? The first thing in understanding the past, there are two types of pasts that we can examine. I'm sure there's others, but these are the ones I'm concentrating on.